Before I talk about Sinner versus Alcaraz at the Six Kings Slam, I want to talk about something terrible that happened today at the tournament in Stockholm in the semifinals. Rune was playing Humbert, and with Rune up 6-4, 2-all in the second set, it appears that Holger possibly tore his Achilles. His mom said that doctors examined the injury and they could feel that the Achilles is torn. Of course, they didn't perform any scans yet. And if Holger really tore his Achilles, which it appears that he has, this is, in my opinion, absolutely the worst injury that a tennis player can get. It is certainly the one that I'm scared of the most. I know some people very close to me that have torn their Achilles playing pickleball, interestingly, and the recovery time is absolutely brutal. I don't know when he can return to tennis, but it's probably going to be late in the 2026 season, maybe for the US Open. We shall see. I remember last year, Lucas Pouille also tore his Achilles at a Challenger tournament, and I'm not sure if he's back yet. I don't think so. So this is an absolutely brutal injury, and I'm wishing Holger the best. Now, a lot of people on X are speculating that players are getting injured more because of the brutal season. And I recently talked about the balls being a factor that a lot of people are not talking about when discussing slower courts and a horrible schedule. I made a video discussing the poor quality of the balls. And I do believe that the balls being so bad and fluffing up so quickly is obviously leading to absolutely exhausting rallies. And if you're going to play tennis like that week in and week out, I think there's going to be more injuries. I'm certain that this is true. And this leads me to transition to the match between Djokovic and Fritz, which was a meaningless match, if you will. I'm not a big fan of third place playoff matches, but I do think this was a very interesting match because even though it was a meaningless match, so to speak, both Fritz and Novak were fighting so hard. If you want to rewatch this match on Netflix, just go to 5-4, Djokovic in the first set, Fritz serving. And the next two games, I think, lasted a half hour, an absolute battle. And what Fritz said afterwards in the interview is that the balls had fluffed up from all these long rallies and it became unbelievably slow and it was impossible to put the ball away. And after these two games, Djokovic's gas tank was empty again. I talked about Djokovic's troubles with his physical condition when he has to exert himself in a tournament going very deep to the semifinals usually. But even in a single match, for example, in the early rounds of the US Open, Novak Djokovic was gassed, and he was gassed enough in this match to pull out. Maybe he was still carrying a little bit of an injury from the tournament in Shanghai, but we shall see. Novak does plan to play two more tournaments, Athens for sure, and then possibly the ATP finals, but he said he's only going to do that if he gets his body right. So we shall see. But now, interestingly, in the final between Sinner and Alcaraz, the conditions were lightning fast. And of course, that was an advantage for Sinner, who has improved his serve. So let's talk about the Sinner serve. I heard Sinner's coach say that they made changes. And I've been looking so hard ever since the US Open to see a huge change in the Sinner serve. And there is a slight adjustment in the rhythm. I talked about that in the previous video. But the fact is that even at the tournament in Beijing, Sinner is serving a lot better. And in Shanghai, Sinner had physical issues, and of course, those can affect the serve as well. But in the semifinals against Djokovic, I thought that this was some of the best serving that I've ever seen from Sinner, and that was the main reason why I picked Sinner to win this match. Because when it comes to Sinner versus Alcaraz, the serve is incredibly important when these guys play each other, closely followed by the return of serve and the tactics that Sinner and Alcaraz will choose on the return of serve. This is a very important factor. And when Jannik Sinner is at the top of his game, when he's serving well and when he's returning at the top of his game, I think that on a fast surface, he is clearly the best player in the world, and there is not much that players can do with the exception of Alcaraz. I do think that Alcaraz on a fast surface is going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to improve, just like Jannik did after the US Open. Jannik improved his serve. I think Carlos will look at this match and he's going to continue to look for solutions on a quick surface. And we're going to benefit because these matches are going to keep getting better and better. And the rest of the tour is not going to benefit because they're going to have to catch up and get better if they want to have any chance against these two guys. So in this final, Jannik Sinner serving well, making a lot of first serves. He breaks Alcaraz in his first service game, continues to serve well. He breaks him again, goes up 4-1, wins this first set with 2 breaks, 6-2. Carlos Alcaraz wasn't feeling his return today, and even when Sinner gave him the occasional second serve, Carlos Alcaraz couldn't utilize, and he was just a little bit off, possibly affected by that high bouncing court, which also happened to be quick. Now in the second set, Alcaraz got into the match, and it was for sure more competitive at 2-all. Sinner started applying a lot of pressure on the Alcaraz serve and got himself 2 breakpoint chances, which Alcaraz saved with some incredible serving. Then Sinner holds at 3-all. He is again applying a lot of pressure on the Alcaraz serve, and this time he ends up breaking him. He continues to hold for the rest of the match and wins the 6-king slam final, 2-4. I don't think that Carlos Alcaraz played a poor match necessarily. I don't think he was at the top of the game, as already said. Return of serve was poor for his standards. He didn't have a single breakpoint opportunity, but of course this was influenced by Jannik Sinner's exceptional serving. He made more first serves than he usually does and looked very similar to the Djokovic match. So whatever the coach did, it worked, because Jannik Sinner now absolutely does not have a serve problem. Now, the way I'm seeing this matchup is in the following way. The only caveat to this being a 50-50 match every time they play are indoor courts. I do believe that Carlos Alcaraz is going to continue to get better and better on indoor courts, but despite him having the ability to play very aggressive tennis, he doesn't necessarily play the perfect style of tennis for fast indoor courts. And I've said multiple times in videos that Jannik Sinner reminds me a lot of Roger Federer, and I'm getting a lot of pushback on this, and a lot of you guys are saying that Alcaraz actually is more similar to Federer. So I want to explain again what I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about style. Of course, Jannik Sinner's style of strokes completely different to Roger. I'm not talking about the repertoire of strokes. Of course, Federer has a bigger repertoire of strokes compared to Sinner, even though Sinner keeps getting better and better. The drop shots and the volleys and the backhand slices are starting to look better and better. But of course, not at the Federer level. That's where you can compare Alcaraz more to Federer, because he has that incredible repertoire, and Alcaraz's drop shot, in my opinion, is even better than Federer's. But when you look at how a player approaches a tennis match, I don't think that Alcaraz is looking to end the point with a few shots every single time. Of course, he has the capability to do that. He will serve bombs and look for an ace here and there. He will serve and volley. He will come to the net off the return. But Carlos Alcaraz also likes to play. The tennis court is like a playground for him, and he doesn't mind being in long rallies. And of course, we all know that he loves to utilize the drop shot. One stat that I forgot to mention yesterday was that he won 12 out of 13 points against Taylor Fritz in the semifinals. So that's Carlos Alcaraz. Again, not necessarily looking to end the point with just a few shots. But to me, Sinner is very similar to Federer, where he is not looking to be in long rallies. He is looking to finish the point extremely quickly with unbelievable aggressive ground strokes. See, in Federer's case, it was his forehand, which is the most lethal forehand in the history of tennis. I still stand by that. But in Sinner's case, it's not only the forehand, it's also the backhand. So this makes it even worse for players, because someone like Nadal had a window in Federer's game where he could extend the rallies, where Federer couldn't be so aggressive. Of course, that changed a little bit in 2017. So the way Alcaraz usually gets to Sinner and extracts errors from him is by utilizing his versatility. And there are just less opportunities to do that on a fast surface. And it is for that reason that I believe it's going to be difficult for Alcaraz to beat Sinner in the Wimbledon final, and generally on a fast court. I think when the court is medium fast, like the US Open, it's a little bit different. But when we're talking about indoor courts, I do think that this is not a 50-50 match anymore. I think the advantage is a little bit more on Sinner's side. Again, Carlos Alcaraz just doesn't have time. He feels pressure just like the rest of the tour where Yannick doesn't give him any time to breathe. I'm not sure if you saw some of the slow-mo footage today, how early Sinner was taking the kick serve of Alcaraz. So Alcaraz having a high first serve percentage indoors is crucial if he wants to beat Yannick Sinner on a surface like that. And Yannick Sinner's court positioning from the baseline is also very aggressive. His technique perfectly suits his court positioning and him having great timing while playing extremely aggressive on fast courts. Now again, Carlos Alcaraz is a worker. He is going to study this match. He has the capability to make adjustments in this game and to continue to work so that he can have better chances against Yannick on a fast surface.